management, or sponsors. Amp2.tv presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on amp2.tv. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hey guys, welcome to Tell Us Your Business. My name is Teddy, and as you can see, we have some really awesome guests here. First, before we introduce Ms. Debbie Ferris, who I am so excited to talk about her book, I would like to say congratulations to Slick for finally making it on the radio with
I
us.
know it took me a while, but you know, guys, I'm finally here. This is Slick from Slick Speaks, but hey, that's about it.
He's going to be helping me with the interview
Most
today.
definitely.
So I'm really excited about that because I've known Slick for like a year now.
Correct.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And now our wonderful resident author, who I am insanely excited to interview about this, Miss Debbie Ferris. Hello.
Hi.
So, before we start anything, can you do an introduction of what your book is, what it's about, just a short synopsis so everyone knows what we're talking about?
Okay, so my book is called Beyond the Breakpoint, and it's about the journey of my widowhood. I was widowed when I was quite young. I was left with 3 young boys, all under the age of 10. And since then, I found joy again. So that's why I wrote the book, because I wanted to illustrate what that was all about.
And I had asked you before the show if it was okay to talk about, because that is insane to me that you were able to go through that, find joy, and then find the strength to say, I want this for other people. I want people to know that it's possible, to know that they can do it, and to share your story. And I haven't gotten through the whole book yet. I just got it today. I'm like a quarter of the way through already. You can't put it down. I love the way you write. I love your style of writing. I love just the story and how you can feel all the emotions from it.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm so thrilled about that. And when everything happened, what made you say, before we go all the way back, what made you say, I want to write a book about this?
Well, I never really wanted to write a book about this, but what happened was 4 years into my widowhood, one of my old friends from a previous lifetime had reached out to me. He didn't know I was widowed. I didn't know he was recently widowed.
Oh.
And when he moved hours, he was in Singapore. When he reached out to me and learned that I was widowed, he really made an effort for us to talk. He needed to talk to me. And he was running a fairly large business operation. I knew he had a lot of people in his circle, and it just struck me that I was the one person that he really needed to talk to, because we both found ourselves in a situation that was unexpected.
I can't imagine what you went through, and I can't imagine what he went through, and I can only imagine how important the support system is when you're going through, the trauma and the time. And like you said, 4 years later, that support system, I'm sure, still helped you so much.
Well, the thing about the 4 years later that struck me was that, whenever you have a bad experience, I think mothers in childbirth, you don't want to remember the pain.
And I would say it's so beautiful. I'm not excited.
I was past that. So I was in a very different space.
Okay.
And when he called me, I realized I need to be where he is. I need to meet him in his pain at 3 months.
Oh.
It just so happened that I had written a diary of what was going on. And I went back to my diary to get myself back into that place. And upon reading those words that I never thought I would ever read again, I realized there's some good material here that could help people. So that was the beginning of why I decided to write a book.
Which, again, I have so much respect for you for being able to go back through that pain. And I know nothing like that. My family's going through, everyone family goes through things that are very rough. And to me, I think in my future, I never would ever want to think about this again. And I've never wanted to relive it. And for you to willingly say, I want to help this person and everyone else so much, I will willingly relive all the pain and that you went through. I just want to say I have so much respect to you for that, because that is I can genuinely tell you I could never do it.
You know, you don't want to relive, but at the same time, you want to give meaning to a life experience. And that was my way to, I guess.
Exhale, in a sense.
Yes. Give something, pay it forward for someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was not really for me, but I realized that when I was going through this, as you said, the support that I had was enormous. But even my best friends did not fully understand what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that if people could understand what the bereaved is feeling, they can be a support system. They can help better.
Yeah.
Because, it's all about the village.
I didn't even think of that, but that's, I'm really not the best with emotional stuff. When I have friends who go through stuff, I'm not the best
Same.
helper, emotional
Same.
support.
I'm not, yeah.
But I never even thought of that, reading a book like that when I haven't gone through it, but I can learn from someone who did to help support someone. And you'll never understand, but to try, that's amazing. I didn't even think of that.
Yes, so that was another reason why I had this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm a person that has things on my list, and
You
this
have
was on there,
you have
and
to
I'm like, I just got
cross it
to
off.
cross this off,
Yeah.
so it's done.
I love it. And as a brief period, where can people get this book?
On Amazon, you look for Debbie Ferris, Debbie, Beyond the Breakpoint.
Just because as you listen to this, if you say, as I did, I want to get this book, and thankfully Dawn had a copy, so I was like, snag that. But go on Amazon, not while you're driving. If you're listening to this at
Yes,
a red
definitely.
light,
Not
while
when you're
you're-
stopped, look it up on Amazon, because that is one very cool that you got it on Amazon, because a lot of people try very hard for that.
I had mentors along the way.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And so after this, I'm hoping it was cathartic to write for you, just to get everything out there.
A lot of people have asked that question, was this cathartic? And I wouldn't say the book necessarily was cathartic. What was cathartic for me at the time was writing it when I was journaling. And I do mentor people through their grief, and that is one of the ways that you can do therapy, is write your feelings. So unbeknownst to me, I did that when I was recently widowed. And thankfully I had those writings, because I would not have been able to do that had I not done it then. But no, the book was not cathartic.
I feel like that might be good in a way.
It is.
That
yeah.
you didn't, you can actually mentor people, like you said, through the grief of you don't need to write a wonderful book to feel better. You can actually feel better and then write a book.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. Yes. That was definitely the case for me.
So what was I'm only a quarter of the way through the book. I can't put it down. I got it this morning and I'm still going. What was your breaking point, I guess, where you said, I'm going to find joy, and where did you start to break off from the path and find all of that?
Well, one of the things that I coach people with is that what's most important, I think, is when you have meaningful purpose. And to me, it was very clear that my meaningful purpose were my 3 sons. They were so young, and I was the one standing parent. So I have this, my husband used to say, if mom is happy, everybody is happy. So I realized I have to be happy. And I wasn't always
That's correct.
happy.
That really is correct.
So
If
I
mom
go
is
like
not happy,
Everybody is
not happy.
so mom tried to do what she could to be happy,
Most
because
definitely.
it was going to affect, or I would be a better parent. And I'm not going to, my sons are hearing me. There were many times where I was not happy. It was rough, but yes.
I think that's important, that, it is true. If mom's happy, mom, please be happy. If mom's happy, everyone's happy. But I think it's important to see your parent as, a human who has emotions and feelings, and that you can be happy again from those emotions and feelings.
And I think that's one of the mistakes that I made as a parent was when it was happening, I was probably too strong, and I didn't let them see how really torn up I was. I kept that to myself. So those are some of the things that I talk about in the book. When you get to the end, you'll see the lessons that I learned, or
The spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
But no, that is incredibly important because that is something that a lot of people do. Your first instinct is, I have to be strong for my kids. I have to be strong for my family. I have to be strong for my siblings. I can't let them see me cry. And it's important that, you recognize your own feelings.
Yes.
And I'm sure you talk about this a lot in, your grief counseling, that you need to recognize your feelings. And if you can deal with that, you can move on to be a happier person.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
But me, I'm just shocked that you did it with 3 boys. My mom did it with 4 boys. Even though she didn't have a loss, but she only had us. So, like, what you're saying is kind of like, I'll say, reminding me of my mother, because my mother is like, I'll say, a big key point in my life, because if she wasn't happy, nobody was happy.
Yes.
But I had to make sure that she stayed happy. And the fact that right now she's seeing her joy, she should have been seeing her joy when she was like in her, like, I'll say, earlier years, but like my mother was the one to keep everything in. So she never really went to therapy. So the fact that you're saying that, I'm gonna give her some pointers tonight to, like, vent to me, or like vent to a book. It's just like, I know that she puts her faith into God.
Well, that's another big component
Yeah.
about my book.
Yeah, but she never, what's the word? She never like really expressed herself to like either friends, family, or her sons. So she was kind of like the stoic, or like the rock that held all of us together, even though that we were tearing her hair out. Not like physically, guys, but like,
Oh yeah.
I know
exactly
in my
what you're
younger,
talking
I know
about.
in my younger years, I wasn't like this. So,
I
I
can't
know
imagine.
exactly what you're talking about.
but like, how can I give like any like pointers to my mom to like actually, because right now she got some new veneers in, so she loves smiling. She loves smiling to the point that she wants to go out.
long
How
as there's
can
a reason.
how can I like get her out of her box to like actually go out? Like, she's not the person to go out. I don't know why, but like, she should go out, but like she wants to step out. How can I have her? I mean, she has joy in her life, but she's just like she's still timid.
Is she still raising children, or
She's not, but she wants to raise more children, which doesn't make any sense, to the point that she asks us.
to have grandchildren?
Yes. Only one of us
Welcome
has
to
2
the Jewish
grandchildren. And I'm like, no, you don't have. I'm like, we can go to the beach. She's like, I don't want to go to the beach. Or like, we can go out. And then she's like, oh no, I don't want to go out. But she loves stepping out. She's like the type of person that loves to step out. But
Well, you have to find what her interests are. Like, maybe she likes more, church stuff, or maybe she likes a reading circle.
Maybe you can do a book club.
A book
beyond
club?
the break point.
A
That's-
book club is, it's a nice way to meet other people. You can socialize, and then from that, there's offsprings.
True. Hopefully she does find her break point. I'm gonna try to see if I can get her into a book club. It's just like, I know she's scared of like what's going on right now, so it's giving her a reason to stay more sheltered with herself. But like, I will try to see if I can get like the digital copy of this book to
Yes,
see if
it's
what is it.
I'll
to-
lend you mine once I'm done with it.
Okay,
I will lend you
to
mine.
see if
I'll lend
like,
you Dawn's that I'm borrowing.
Yeah, I don't
that
know
I'll
what
lend
is
to you.
it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she'll read this, but I know I will read it to give her P's and Q's on like how to reach that. She has joy in her life, but I don't think she's 100% there. She's probably like on a scale of like
Did
a
your
grading
mom
scale.
suffer a loss?
She suffered loss like down. She lost both of her parents within 2 years, and she lost a couple friends that were down in Haiti. So she never likes to talk about death, but she tends to always go to funerals.
Well,
And
we
I've
have.
never-
I don't want to interrupt, but we have
Yeah.
a question from
Oh, what's
Facebook,
going on?
which is, what do you hope people can learn from your book?
So, there's different aspects. Part of my book, I talk about addiction, and I'm very forthright about what that can do in a marriage. So, it would help you. I've heard it helps you examine your marriage. That's one area. I talk a little bit about raising children. I talk about ways that I addressed grief. There's a little bit of, call it supernatural experiences there. And I wrote about them because as a young widow, I was the recipient of a lot of, call it revelations from other people, things that people don't necessarily want to tell because no one wants to be seen as you're weird or you're kooky or whatnot.
Yeah.
But they would feel comfortable to tell me.
Which is
Shared
such a strange
experience.
scenario in itself.
But you know what? It's very encouraging because you never know what never is till you lose someone. The
Correct.
finality of never
Like
is
that.
very
Most definitely.
poignant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you get little, call it messages, you're like, oh, maybe they're not terribly gone. They're not totally gone. So I talk a little bit about that so people can feel maybe validated. And then my own lessons, but I'm not going to do a spoiler alert.
Yeah, don't spoil
Don't
it
spoil
again.
it all the way. Yeah.
But I like the point of addiction and look at your marriage because, again, that's something that I'm learning as I get older that's a huge problem. And it's not
It
always
is.
addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to gambling. People are addicted to feeling sad. People are addicted. I heard someone the other day say, I learned I was addicted to having anxiety, which was the strangest thing I had ever heard in my entire life. And, you know, I know people who are recently going through it in their marriages, and it has brought it out in them that you have to examine your marriage, and that's so important to talk about.
Well, sometimes we feel very comfortable, even if they're negative emotions, we feel very comfortable being in because it's what we know.
In that
It's
toxic
familiar.
field. Yeah.
It just feels familiar. And so to venture out of that
Yeah.
sometimes is scary, even if the outcome is so much better.
Yeah.
But people like familiarity.
it's true.
So,
They like what they know. And taking a look at your marriage, what's advice you have on that? Because that might be the hardest thing that I think people have to do because they
Correct.
don't want to admit that something's wrong.
yeah, that's a big part of it. You want to have this picture perfect marriage. I think the advice I would give is when you get married, make sure you really, really love the other person, because love can conquer a lot, as you will see in my book. It's truly a book about love and what love did because of love. So all of those uphills and downhills.
It's incredible. And it's amazing to hear, you know, people actually making it through, because you hear so many terrible stories when maybe the love didn't conquer, maybe it wasn't correct. So to actually hear it to the very, very end and then
Love.
finding the light at the end of the end, it was amazing.
Yes.
I'm so excited to read these spoilers.
Yeah.
Yes. But no, I mean, I'm a big, till death do us apart. So
Yeah.
I can say I lived up to my principles.
Awesome. And we have another question. Oh, okay. Just kidding. You answered it. It was, would you have done anything differently? So,
And sometimes I ask myself, because there was a time after it happened that I was like, I don't want to be in this story. I don't even want to be in this book. And I wished things would have been different for me. I really did. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why me? But now that I'm on the other side, I can just tell you all of these experiences have turned me into a very different person who has already lived her worst nightmare. So nothing really daunts me
When
these
she
days.
sees the
and that
light.
can take everyone else's worst nightmare, maybe make it a little bit more bearable and ease it a little bit. to
She's
know that you're
literally
not
the
alone.
light. Like the way that you're talking, like you're literally the light after, like a lot of people would have broke after what happened to you. So you that's a true inspiration that
Breaking was not an option.
Sure, but I want to hear about the joy that happened afterwards now.
Correct.
So I have found joy afterwards. Again, I developed certain principles on how to guide my life.
Says, sorry, we have another Facebook question.
Yes, we do.
It says, what advice would you give someone to begin the process?
I'm not sure what process they're talking about. If it's the
I'm
grief,
guessing the process
of
of
finding
finding your joy,
joy, yeah.
in it, or the grief, or
Finding the
whatever.
happiness after the darkness. Right.
I think the first thing is that really gets you out of bed is to again find purpose, meaning, and I asked myself really the question, well, why me, and then why am I here, and it was very clear.
Yeah.
Of course, as a mom, we all, if we take that as a purpose, it's
Of course, it's the greatest purpose you have.
yes. So that, but that was important to me. And then I will say, along the way, I was very fortunate that I already had a good faith foundation, because I really questioned my faith all over again. I mean, the questions were what God would do this to a young woman with 3 kids. What God would leave these children fatherless. And we were not bad. I mean, we weren't perfect, but we weren't bad people. There are a lot of bad people out there that I think deserve worse. So
I fully agree. I'll go on record
That's
saying
all
that.
facts right there.
So I'm like, why? So those were really tough questions that I had to turn to faith to have answers, or at least to be satisfied with the process.
Which in itself is a huge strength, because again, there are a lot of people who will say that and say, I give up. I can't do this anymore. I give up on my faith. I give up on someone who wouldn't do this.
You ask yourself the question. I mean, I would consider that I came from a pretty strong faith background, but when that happened to me, I was like, well, I don't even know if there's a God.
Yeah.
And so I had to start all over again. I think a lot of times we inherit our faith. It's just what our family did, and we inherit it. In my case, I did, but I also had to make it my own. Mm-hmm. And so that was part of my journey.
And it got challenged, and you
For
found
sure. For sure.
I can only imagine.
Yes.
That is, I just sit here, I'm like, wow. Because I came from, I have 3 older sisters, and I keep thinking of you with 3 boys that you raised by yourself. And how young were they about when this happened?
So my eldest was 10, and then I had an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. So they were all in very different places. And my 10-year-old is very mature. So let's just say that he was more like a 13-year-old.
Which is arguably one of the hardest ages for boys. My cousin is 13, and he is my God.
He's extremely mature. And so the loss for him was very difficult, because he was very close to his. So the challenge really was each boy was at a different place in life.
Correct.
And their grief was different in terms of their relationship with their father and what they had. The baby did not even know his dad, really.
Correct.
So
I didn't.
yes. So that's tough. How do you relate the memory of a father that you have not really gotten to know?
Yeah. Especially when your older brothers were so much more close with him.
Yes,
and in touch
they
with
have their
him.
memories, and he does not. So there were challenges with each child, and I had to meet each one. I don't know how successfully or not. Time will tell, but
That's amazing.
here we go.
And we're coming to the end of the show, so I want to talk about one more time, where can everyone get Beyond the Breakpoint?
On Amazon,
Yes.
you look for Debbie Ferris, Beyond the Breakpoint, or Debbie Ferris book. And
Please look it up, guys. Please go get it. This is something that, and again, we talked about it, even if you haven't been through this, to be able to read what you went through and be able to help someone else in the future at least partially understand it.
And I want to plug a little bit. I do talk about life in Venezuela and in Panama back in the day. And I think it's a good, and also my Chinese ancestry. So it's a little bit of a cultural experience if you go along the journey with me.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for
You're
coming
welcome.
on. And thank you, Slick,
No
for coming
problem.
on
No,
your
thank you,
first
Debbie.
radio.
No problem. No problem.
And make sure to check out Beyond the Breakpoint, Debbie Ferris on Amazon. Grab that book. I'm so excited to get through the spoilers. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us on Tell Us Your Biz.
This has been Tell Us Your Business